down in the dirt. Now watch Spear. Now the ball will be in the dirt itself. He goes down to get it, but it stays down. The ball never comes up. Doesn't get the glove down. Goes underneath.
And Stanford takes an 8-run lead in the bottom of the 3rd inning. There's a good breaking ball. And this is the first time that 2 teams from the same conference have ever played for the National Baseball Championship. And that's something. We had 2 from the same conference play for the basketball title, too. For the Big 8, it was Oklahoma and Kansas in that great game. And here, Stanford leading Arizona State 8-0. This is quite a reversal from last night's game for Arizona State, Rick. Swung on and missed. But 2 more runs across the plate for Stanford. It's uphill now for Arizona State. They trail it 8-0. They'll send up 5, 6, and 7 in their batting order. Rumsey, Peralta,
and I'm with Greg Olson. You already announced the All-American pitcher from Auburn, first-round draft pick of the Baltimore Orioles, has signed a contract. Does that mean you can't go to the Olympics? What's happening?
Well, I'm leaving for the Olympics. Olympic tryouts tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So I'm headed there, and there's no problem. The Orioles said it was fine if I went.
So it wasn't an issue in the negotiations?
Well, it was an issue. They offered me a contract with the Olympics and without the Olympics. So either way, I'm in good shape.
What did the Orioles tell you about your future with their organization? When might you come up?
They said I could be up, if I had a good summer at the end of the year in September. Next year, they said, I'm going to have to work and come out of spring training on my own and try to get up there by myself.
Brent, you remember Greg Olson from those Pan American games. Now back to you.
Sure do, and from a trip down to Havana, too. I watched him pitch against the Cubans down there. Doc, tell him that the Orioles needed him back in April. Here's the pitch now to Paulson up high. 1 ball and 2 strikes, the count. Troy Paulson, the Stanford shortstop, leading off the bottom of the 4th inning. And the Cardinal ahead of Arizona State, 8-1. Sun Devils break through for the first time in the 4th inning on the freshman right-hander. There's a ground ball toward the second baseman. Higgins has it. Well, Rick, USC has dominated with 11 championships. Arizona State next at 5, and there are the Longhorns of Texas.
It's really amazing when you look at what USC has been able to do. Almost dominated this entire College World Series for a number of years consecutively, but Pac-10 division right now, and that conference itself extremely well represented here in the College World Series this year.
What convinced you to go to Arizona State when Winkles was putting that program together?
Actually, I came close to signing with the Dodgers. Tom Lasorda was trying to sign me at that particular time, and strange as it may seem, it was really through the Pittsburgh Pirate organization that I was introduced to Coach Bobby Winkles and decided to go to Arizona State. And one of the fine decisions that I made, maybe one of the few fine decisions.
1 ball and 2 strikes, the count here on Sprague. He homered for Stanford in the 1st inning, then he was a strikeout victim later. He's been busy at 3rd base, hasn't he? There's a ground ball. Ingram reaches back for it. Nice play by the pitcher. Paul Carey moves in, single and a sacrifice fly.
Ingram bounced around that mound very well. Gets the backhand play, turns around and gets Sprague. And
Marquis has done an excellent job with his baseball program at Stanford. Paul Carey, I asked him, isn't it tough to recruit at Stanford with its high academic standards? And he said, well, it can be, but it also works to our advantage because there are a lot of parents who want a quality education, and you get a chance to come and play baseball and study at Stanford, and it works out. There's a strike on the outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike on Carey with 2 out. It was interesting also, timeout is called, to note that he said, if you play a 1-game championship, the one team you don't want to meet is Arizona State. Might have changed his mind along about now with an 8-1 lead in the 4th inning, but the Sun Devils are still very dangerous.
Well, they had so much problem, Stanford did, in trying to beat Arizona State during the regular season that they had faced one another. And While he did say that they would not want to play Arizona State, he had a little smile on his face shortly thereafter.
Listach over to Willis. And for the first time, Stanford goes in order. Out 1, 2, 3 in the bottom of the 4th. And now Arizona State will move back to the top of the batting order in the top of the 5th. Listach will lead it off for him. He'll be followed by John Finn. Swept the University of Arizona all season 6 times. He came to the College World Series, and he was beaten in a key game and wound up finishing 3rd. This year he beat Stanford 5 of 6 times. Now he finds himself battling uphill. We're in the 5th inning, and Brock's Sun Devils are down 8-1. This is the 17th year that he has coached this baseball program. He's won more than 700 games. He got to 500 faster than any coach in the history of the business. And he runs a very high-class program down there. Listach, Finn, and Higgins. Top of the lineup. Swung on and missed on the high fastball, and it's a ball and a strike. Rick, your feeling about Stan Spencer and how far he can go here for Stanford?
So far, he has looked very, very strong, although we did see a little action down in that Stanford bullpen the previous inning. For Arizona State at the top of the order here in the 5th inning, they would like to get something going. And a little strange now in college baseball to maybe look over that Arizona State dugout and not see the proverbial rally hats. We spoke with Jim Brock the other day. He says, hey, I don't allow it. He called it a cancer, if you will, in college ranks. You're not going to see the rally hat in that dugout.
Check swing, one hopper to the second baseman, throw on first. Listach is out.
Listach hit the bag, and he may have been injured because the first base bag is out of the ground totally right now. The first base umpire, Dave Williams, is placing it back in the ground. Here we see Carey going over, but watch Listach at first base. The bag is pulled up. His foot goes down. And with an ankle situation right there, a very scary thing. We'll get another look at it now. Watch the bag, how it goes up. It hits, and just all of a sudden comes up. Where it starts to come up. Now those bags, we saw one a couple of weeks ago in the big leagues that came up. Second base at Dodger Stadium, and here I can only imagine now with Listach having come down on top of the bag, somehow it forced the bag to come off of that metal peg that's in the ground. The bag fits over the top of it. A very scary situation. They're checking his knee and his ankle, while home plate umpire John Bible now is checking the bag along with the ground crew.
It seemed as though his left foot almost slid across the bag, and when it got to the back of it, the front part tore loose.
Well, at first looked at it, I thought that maybe Ron Whitmire, the first baseman, when he caught the ball, had maybe caused the bag to come up. That was not the case. Listach is walking off rather gingerly now, but he appeared to just come down on top of the bag and somehow force the bag out of its position.
So we hope that he is all right. We'll remind you that after this, we've got golf coming up, the 3rd round of the Westchester Classic. A look at the leaderboard after 2 rounds. So the grounds crew coming back out here to do a little work with that base to make sure that it is anchored down and doesn't come up when a runner hits it like that. Texas leads the way in the number of appearances here at the College World Series with 24. USC has certainly made the most of their 17, followed by the 2 teams. Arizona State is 3rd, and then Stanford is 11th. This is their 7th appearance. Marquis played in 1 and has coached in 6. Spencer again able to throw strikes. He has not walked a single hitter here this afternoon. He leads 8-1. We're in the top of the 5th with 1 out. He's looking at the Arizona State 3rd baseman John Finn, who was 1 for 2. Breaking ball outside and low for a ball.
And for Spencer to only have thrown 17 balls, 64 pitches so far through 4 1/3 innings. One of the main reasons that Stanford has been able to go on top along with the offense.
Bluffs the bunt and pulls back, taking a strike. 1-1.
Finn is a very good bunter. He'll not only drag the ball but push it as well, and at times he will take a pitch. It looks like he's no idea of wanting to really bunt the ball, maybe take a strike, but in fact if he gets a pitch he will go either way, first or third with a bunt.
Foul. Look at last night's line score in the Arizona State victory over Wichita State. They scored 9 runs in the 6th inning and 5 more in the 8th inning. Strikes on Finn. Takes strike 3. And Spencer retires the first 2 hitters here in the top of the 5th.
And Spencer continues his domination so far during the ball game of Arizona State. Very low percentage, the number of balls that he's thrown, and good example of maybe the addition of an inch or 2 to the outside part of the plate here in the College World Series.
Struck out 4 and walked no one. And this is second baseman Kevin Higgins. His one hit a double to left field. He was left stranded at second base. It has been difficult to guess against Spencer. He has mixed up the fastball. There's one right at Carey. 1, 2, 3. They knock down the top of the Arizona State batting order here in the 5th inning. And we'll be back right after this message and a word from your local station. In the bottom of the 5th inning. Listat, who was shaken up, has gone back to play shortstop for Arizona State. And catcher Doug Robbins leads it off with a drive deep to right field. And back to the warning track to make the put out is Rumsey.
Robbins showing some pretty good pop in that bat, sending Rumsey back a long way with that crosswind. Makes it even more noticeable as to the distance that that ball would travel. There you get another shot of Rumsey going back, playing with that wind and also the sun. While it's not a factor now at right field, will just continue as the game progresses here this afternoon.
First baseman Ron Whitmire steps in. Takes one on the outside corner. Speaking of sun, right center field in Wrigley Field must have offered you some moments through the years. That could be a tough sun field.
And it also showed itself here in some of the 4 o'clock games that they were playing in the College World Series. There were a lot of right fielders who were absolutely losing the ball. And just the other night, while we were watching the game down the first baseline, it was also difficult for us to see home plate there for a while.
Count is 2 balls and a strike. Lindsey Ingram is the 3rd Arizona State pitcher. Jim Brock opened with left-hander Rusky Kilgo. He could not last through the 1st inning. And Blas Minor was relieved in the 2nd inning, and Lindsey Ingram has stayed in. Shot down to the corner. This will go for at least 2. Whitmire being held at second base with a double. He has had a stroke like that all week long here in Omaha.
Stanford just continues to swing the bat very aggressively here this afternoon against Arizona State. Very good fundamental swing by Whitmire. Drives the ball down the left field line. The only question here, were we going to get the same hop out of this corner as Candelaria got down the left field corner? Rumsey gets it back in and holds him to a double.
Well, here is Brian Johnson, who, along with playing quarterback, is an extremely versatile baseball player. He can catch if they need it. He can also play third base. We were talking about Marquis playing baseball and football. We cannot overlook Jack Elway's son, John Elway. Was a great baseball player at Stanford and had major league potential. Played that one summer for George Steinbrenner's New York Yankee minor league system. That was a very well-paid summer vacation for John Elway. He's gone on to greater glory and bigger dollars with the Denver Broncos. Ingram checks the runner. The pitch to Johnson outside and low.
Johnson, a very good-looking ball player. Good mechanics at the plate. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes as far as going after bad pitches in the dirt. And when you watch his stance, Brent, you just have to ask yourself the question is, as he really progresses, will it be football or indeed the sport that he's in now, baseball? Very good-looking ball player.
Takes one a little high and tight. 2 balls and a strike. We're in the bottom of the 5th. Last year's champion Stanford ahead of Arizona State 8-1. Smells good all the way up here, Rick.
Sizzling just about like the Cardinal bats here this afternoon.
The way Mom made them in the backyard, right? Maybe they'll send a couple of those up. Ground ball to Higgins at second. He drops it. The throw to first still in time. Johnson is retired, and moving to third is Whitmire.
Higgins a little problem trying to grab the handle as he gets set to throw it over to first base, drops it, but very coolly collects himself, comes up and makes the play. And with Whitmire going over to third base, he aggressively goes through the bag. They continue to look for more runs, Brent, because when he went by third base, he was looking back to home.
There's a pitch on the outside corner for a strike to DH Tim Griffin. He is 1 for 2, a double, drove in a run and scored a run. Whitmire, the runner at third base, has scored each of his 2 previous at-bats. Single came around, then he walked and came around. He scores third run of the game. Swung on and missed, and Whitmire goes diving back to third as Spear runs it down. So it's no balls and 2 strikes.
Griffin, a kind of unusual stance. If you can watch his knees when he's in his stance, he keeps his knees very close together. A consistent hitter for him this year.
There's a view of the knees down. He is the backup second baseman and has been used as the designated hitter here in Omaha. Up high, but it was a foul tip, caught for a third strike, and Griffin is out. Just nicked the top part of the bat and was caught by the catcher. We're through 5. Stanford leading it 8-1. And the middle of the order, Willis
is sponsored by American Chickle, the makers of fine products such as Rolade, Certs, Bubblicious, Dentine, and Trident. And by Honda motorcycles, scooters, and all-terrain vehicles. Honda, come ride with us.
Well, we move to the 6th inning. It's rather an interesting view that we have up here from this perch, Rick Monday, for this championship game. It's 8-1, Stanford leading Arizona State. Another great crowd on hand here in Rosenblatt Stadium in Omaha. 16,071. The weather could not be more ideal. Steve Willis, Dan Rumsey, and Martin Peralta do up for the Sun Devils. Rick, is there any strategy when you approach the 6th inning of a college championship game and you trail it by 7?
When you're down by a few runs, you would like to have the luxury of maybe taking a strike, forcing the pitcher to throw strikes, but Spencer has done nothing but throw strikes here all afternoon. I think it's interesting just to make an observation. We see this Arizona State ball club that does have a few people, as we spoke with Jim Brock the other night. They have some people that can bunt the ball. We have not seen that take place today. They haven't been that successful swinging the bat and scoring some runs, but they're going to have to start swinging it soon.
Backhand by Carey at second base. 1 out. Carey has been an extremely impressive second baseman here at Omaha.
The natural reaction for a ball club would maybe be to get down when you're not really able to score some runs. Carey, who's been turning over the double play just terrifically here in the College World Series, comes up and makes the play.
Appeared to get hung up on the fringe of that grass momentarily, righted himself and made the throw. This is Dan Rumsey. He tripled and scored Arizona State's lone run in the 4th inning. Hit in the air. Johnson coming in, Paulson going out. Johnson calls for it. 2 out. And on a warm day, what could be better than a little snow cone here at Omaha? Arizona State bats have been about that cold for the last 7 hitters. Since scoring that run, Spencer has knocked down the last 8 hitters. Walter Reddy takes that breaking ball outside. Spencer ready. Hit to Sprague. And again, the Sun Devils go in order. We're through 5.5 innings. Stanford 8, Arizona State 1. Due up for the Cardinals will be the number 9 hitter.
Next weekend on CBS Sports Saturday.
With Rick Mundy, John Dockery, I'm Brett Musburger. We're live from Rosenblatt Stadium, Omaha, Nebraska. This is the College Baseball World Series Championship game, matching last year's winner Stanford against Arizona State. And the Cardinal exploded for 5 runs in the bottom of the 1st. They have led all the way, and it is now 8-1 as we move to the bottom of the 6th inning. The crowd, a championship game crowd for Omaha as a strike is poured in to Eric DeGrow by Linty Ingram. The 16,071. That's a new record for the championship, and their total attendance up over 132,000. Also a record for the College World Series. So Omaha continues to support this event in great fashion. 1 ball and 1 strike now. The count on DeGrow. Linty Ingram has been fairly impressive, Rick.
Done a very good job, and surprisingly enough, when you look at this Arizona State ball club, the reason that Ingram did not start against the Cardinal was because of not being that effective during the season against them.
There's a bloop single into shallow center field. DeGrow is on with a base hit. Frank Carey due up. And Rick, your impressions of the Stanford second baseman so far this week?
Well, you and I both last night were just amazed at what we were able to see him do. He hangs in extremely well on the double play. And certainly as Coach Mark Marquis enjoys it to see him flashing the signs out. But at second base, to be able to stay in there with those runners bearing down on you in the double play, the pitcher's best friend, it can get you out of a couple of big innings, and it has certainly done that for Stanford in here in the College World Series. An interesting matchup today, 2 ball clubs that we have looked at that have been right on the verge of elimination quite a number of times in both the regional and here in the College World Series.
Outside corner. Bible reminds me of Dutch Rennert back at the plate. Got to hold up just to make sure before he wheels that right arm for the strike. Snap throw over. Swung on a miss. Runners going. Throw through. Not in time. A stolen base for Eric DeGrow, the center fielder. DeGrow with a very good jump. Ingram didn't really give him that close of a check. And
first base for Spear by the time the throw gets down there. We'll get another look at it. Now, here's the jump. A very strong jump indeed. He's looking back almost as if it were a hit and run. There you see the throw. Higgins going over, tries to get in front of it. They do keep the ball in front, so the throw cannot go over to third.
Ground foul. No balls and 2 strikes to count on Carey. Rickett probably was, given Carey's ability to handle the bat. He'd made contact in his 3 previous at times. The way he checked in, I think they were starting in and hoping to get something going here with a hit and run. They lead at 8-1. But when you're playing a team that has exploded for 19 the game before, you're still just a touch uneasy about that lead. Into the second baseman, Higgins, so the stolen base works. Moving on to third base is DeGrow, because that was a double play ground ball to Higgins.
Carey does his job getting the runner over to scoring position. Over at third base, a lot more ways to score from third than at second base. So fine job indeed by Carey, who is just a little firecracker of a player.
Shortstop Troy Paulson moves in. 1 for 3. That was a single. He has also flied out, grounded out. Breaking ball is outside. 1 out. DeGrow's on at third. Stanford 8, Arizona State 1.
Arizona State's playing the infield up in this situation. They want to try and stop this extra run from scoring. So they move the infield up on the grass.
Inside corner. Stanford played the second game last evening, and some may have thought that it was a disadvantage to conclude late in the evening and have a quick turnaround, but it has certainly not turned out that way. 2 balls and 1 strike.
It's interesting that Jim Brock, prior to, or right after their game, prior to Stanford's game, they asked him how long he would like to see the second game run last night. He says, I hope they play 25 innings.
Foul. 2-2, and Paulson attempting to punch one through this pulled in infield. Get the Cardinals still another run. That one hit in the air behind first base, and it'll go into the 3rd or 4th row. One of the reasons why they use a baseball that is a little bit harder than the one employed by the major leaguers is for economic reasons. Baseball in a college game, once it gets older and scuffed, is used in practice. In a major league park, it goes as a souvenir. A little bit higher seam ball, NCAA on the label, high and fast. And a count now goes 3 balls and 2 strikes on Paulson.
He had a good look at Spear, then gave the sign or the target just way up and inside. Paulson trying to get the ball up and in on him.
Another target on the inside part of the plate. Fouls another one away. In case you just joined us, Stanford took command in the first inning. Third baseman Ed Sprague crushed a 2-run homer. They added 3 more to take a 5-0 lead. They scored in each of the first 3 innings. And they were ahead 8-0 before Arizona State broke through in the 4th inning, and that's where we stand now. 8-1, Stanford leading. There's a base hit. Make it 9-1. Single scores to grow.
His final game can be such an emotional one, and for Stanford, they are just kind of peaking their emotions now. Arizona State trying to battle to try and get at least back in the ball game. Some sight of closing down the distance on that scoreboard right now, but Stanford has done an excellent job so far in putting runners on base and then advancing them over to scoring position.
Ed Sprague, who homered in the first, takes a strike. looking back at Coach Marcus. Ooh, hit him. Sprague shakes it off and hustles down to first base.
Asking for the ball up and in off the plate, and the ball just starts digging in as far as continuing to go inside to Sprague. Looks like it gets him right on the hand. There you see the target is up and in, but the ball just keeps tailing away. By the time Sprague can get out of the way, he's already been plunked with it. One of the dangers of being hit on the hand when your hand is still on that bat, a lot of times there's nothing to give except maybe the bones itself. Alfredo Griffin, just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, hit on the hand by Dwight Gooden fastball. Broken hand here, and for a young man with a bright future ahead of him, they're going to check Ed Sprague out down there right now, and that is a big concern with hand injuries, and you don't really know how it's going to be, Brent, for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes or maybe another hour or so.
Well, stepping in now is Paul Carey. He was the player of last year's College World Series. Hit a big grand slam home run early in the competition. He talked about the pressure of coming back.
I came into the season coming off an MVP season, and there was a lot of pressure on myself from my players and from coaches. And I had a little trouble with that at the beginning. You know, I struggled a little bit at the beginning. And I had a feeling inside that I was expected to get a hit every time up. I was expected to drive in a run. So it was a lot of added pressure.
He's out of Weymouth, Mass. He was the Massachusetts Player of the Year back in 1986. He was also an all-star hockey player at Boston College High School. And with 2 aboard and 1 out, Stanford leading 9-1. And Paul Carey closing in on a dream, and that's to play on back-to-back national championship teams.
That added pressure that Carey was talking about, what he did is that during the season when he ran into some problems, he started learning how to handle an inside pitch even better than what he had in the past. And in last night's ball game really showed how he's able to stay back on the off-speed pitches.
That is Gordy Farmer down in the Arizona State bullpen. Strike. And he jumps ahead 1 ball and 2 strikes to Carey. Paulson leading away from second. The pitch hit on the ground to Higgins at second. He bobbles it. He'll get the hitter Carey, and he's had some difficulty picking it up here this inning. That's twice he has bobbled ground balls, and again they had a chance, I think, for a double play that time.
Ball hit rather slowly down to Higgins at second base. He had ideas of going and trying to turn over the double play for the second time. Had trouble with that ball, and many times you do that because you start anticipating ahead of actually receiving the ball, trying to throw it before you have it.
Doug Robbins walked and scored during that 5-run rally in the first inning for Stanford. Cardinal leading the Sun Devils 9-1. We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. 2 out. Hit in the air to center field and deep. Retreating and making the catch is Barella. But Stanford breaks through for another run. And they are now up 9-1. Arizona State will move up in the 7th inning. It'll be the bottom third of the batting order.
Post office then did what they're doing here today. They're helping to memorialize this event with a special cancellation, which they will place on a series of 5 cards for $1.20. Now, this may become a rare collectible because right after the game, this stamp will be destroyed, and obviously no more sets will be made. So if you and Rick want a set, you better get your order in a hurry.
All right, Doc, and so far in the game, Stan Spencer has canceled Arizona State. 6 innings, given up only 1 run on 5 hits, 4 strikeouts, and he has yet to walk a hitter. This is Tim Spear leading off. He takes a ball outside. Spencer's really been impressive, hasn't he?
He has been impressive not only from the results that he's gotten, but also the way that he's gone out and the tremendous poise that he has on the mound.
Playable in center field. Straw makes the put out. Candelaria, 0 for 2. Comes up. That's 10 straight that Spencer has retired. And only a freshman. Strike on the outside corner. Rick, do you think it's easier for a pitcher or a hitter to go into professional baseball after playing collegiate?
You may have an opportunity as a pitcher to maybe take a little bit more time to develop the skills. I think there are more adjustments to make from a daily situation as a hitter when you go up, because in collegiate ball you're facing 1 or 2 top pitchers on each ball club. Get into pros, there are many, many more.
Line drive base hit to left field, and that snaps a very impressive pitching streak. And it's the first Arizona State base runner to reach since the 4th inning.
The big guy in this Arizona State lineup, Candelaria. Strong fundamentals and hitting has been their big RBI man over the season.
Center fielder Mike Barola, 0 for 2. Whitmire playing behind the runner at first. Gets the breaking ball in for a strike. Boy, it is hard to read Spencer when he's going to throw that breaking ball, Rick. He doesn't depend on any particular sequence in the count. He'll open you with it. He'll use it 3-1. Comes right back. He struck Barola out on that breaking ball in his last at bat, after showing him nothing but fastballs for the first 2 strikes.
And what makes it more difficult as a hitter is that Spencer does not alter his delivery on the fastball or on the breaking ball, which quite frankly a lot of college pitchers will do.
Stayed up high, 1 ball and 2 strikes. A very poised freshman. Lost an American League championship game last year, and prior to the start of this game, was saying that he thinks he learned a valuable lesson from that appearance. Hit to center field. DeBra goes back, shades his eyes, and makes the put out.
There's a lot of room in center field. There you see not only are the glasses down, but you're also trying to shield it with the glove. And at the last second, turning away. If the ball gets right in the sun, really the only thing you can do is try and get off to the side of it. Get a little bit better angle. Use the glove if you can, but if it goes directly in it, put the glove up where you last thought you saw the ball.
Liz Tash was shaken up in his last at bat when first base came up after he hit it with his left foot. He is 1 for 3 today. He singled leading off the game, then was forced at second, and on the bottom of that inning Stanford exploded for 5. Pac-10 again showing its baseball dominance at the College World Series. They've had a great run here the last few years. 1 ball and 1 strike. Candelaria away from first, 2 out. Breaking ball is outside and high. Arizona State was on the brink of elimination at the hands of Wichita State. Twice with 2 strikes and 2 out of the 9th inning. They battled back. Probably as tough a loss as a college team will ever experience. It was difficult yesterday for Wichita State to get back up for the rematch with Arizona State, actually the 3rd time that they had met them. But it wound up being a rout. 19-1 Arizona State. Picks it up and throws it across. He has been a busy third baseman here today. Arizona State is down in the 7th inning. And coming up for Stanford.
Collegiate baseball, Brent, what it really does is bring out the fact that it is truly a great game. It doesn't really matter on the level by which you're playing, and there's so much tradition. Here in Omaha, the College World Series has really been kind of a trampoline effect, a starting point, if you will, for not only myself, but a lot of other Major League ball players, both past and present. And it's something we finally look back to this experience here in this city.
What was it like when you flew into Omaha, your first time back since the 60s the other day?
I have to tell you, I flew in on Thursday afternoon, and I was glued to the window of the airplane searching for this particular stadium. And I've got to be very honest, is that there was a tremendous amount of emotion that went through me thinking back to some outstanding times being with the ball club, the friendships that we had on that particular ball club, and they stay with you for a lifetime. It's not just for 1 week.
Ron Whitmire strikes out, and that's the first time, Rick, that he has not reached base here this afternoon. So he is out. Starting the bottom of the 7th inning for the Stanford Cardinal. Now it is Brian Johnson, the left fielder, and then Tim Griffin, the designated hitter, due up. Johnson doubling back in the 1st inning and driving in 2 runs during that 5-run explosion. Sprague with 2 RBIs on the home run. Whitmire drove in 1 with a single, and then Johnson doubled in 2 more. And Arizona State has not been close since then. Stanford made it 8-0 before the Sun Devils scored in the 4th. Stanford adding a run at the bottom of the 6th, and here they are in the bottom of the 7th. 1 out and nobody on. Linty Ingram, the 3rd Arizona State pitcher, with the breaking ball at 71 miles an hour on that jugs gun measurement. Try to use that to get an idea as to how hard Spencer is still throwing the ball, too. He has been extremely impressive for Stanford. He's gone all the way. Again, the breaking ball in the 70s. Usually, Rick, what's the differential in speed between the fastball and the breaking ball?
It could be as much as 10 miles an hour, somewhere in that area. But the big thing that you're looking for is just being able to change speeds anyway. I mean, even the fastball, I'll be able to change speeds on it itself. But there you see the fastball. Pretty good one at 86 miles an hour. Seeing the jugs gun being used here, Brandon, goes back to 65. Of course, Lewis and Clark threw out the first pitch for that particular series, and they were just small boys, but obviously did not have the radar guns, only being used on the highway at the time. But back then, it sounds like he's throwing hard.
There's another one. Just painted that outside corner for strike 3. And it's 2 strikeouts here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Well, we saw how fast the fastball was the pitch before, 86, but here is outstanding location. Ingram getting the strikeout.
And now it's Tim Griffin, the DH. Drove in a run and scored after doubling. That was in the 3rd inning. How well they have hit here today against Arizona State. A team that had beaten them 5 of the 6 times they played during the regular season. That's the beauty of the 1 game and out. You never know. Big moment for that man, Mark Marquis, who will coach the United States Olympic team and is moving nearer and nearer to back-to-back NCAA championships.
And his job right now is to not let his ball club take anything for granted at all. He knows on the other side of the field that Arizona State Ball Club has been able to score some runs, and the frustration is just starting to mount even more for Arizona State, with their hopes maybe starting to dim here.
Right past him. He struck out the side. An impressive inning for Ingram here in the 7th. Knocks him down 1, 2, 3. So they'll come to the 8th, and they'll have John Finn leading
Every single person in this stadium.
Well, the first time I came here in the mid-70s, I caught a streaker. Now today I get boogie and umpires. Can't beat fun at the College World Series in Omaha. Here is John Finn now. Top of the order. This young man has really done a job here this afternoon against the Sun Devils. Up a little high with the breaking ball that time. reached base 2 of the 3 times he's batted and struck out. Pitch up high. 2 balls and no strikes. Spencer has not walked anyone yet. Poured that one across.
And he just continues to have excellent control. 91 pitches now in the ball game. 64 strikes.
Check his speed. That at 85 miles an hour, Rick, as the ball is fouled away. How fast do you figure Tommy John throws these days?
I don't think they're using a radar gun on it.
Measure it in weeks?
Or sundial, but you can't argue with results.
You sure can't. Location for Tommy John with that great sinker ball of his. There's the breaking pitch. So the fastball was at 85 and the breaking ball 77. Spencer will not be 19 years old until August 7th. Too far inside. His first walk of the game. So the freshman, was he worried about fresh pressure in this game? Pitching the title game for Stanford? Well, here's what he had to say.
I pitched in the championship game last year before. I think, I guess I didn't do real well in the American Legion National Championship game last year. I looked to that as giving me a chance to kind of, redeem myself. Last year, I had a real rough time in the championship game of that tournament. So this year I'm looking, for a chance to, show that I can pitch a big game.
He is showing that, but he has fallen behind in the count. 1 ball and no strikes. The hitter is second baseman Kevin Higgins. From the top of the 8th, 9-1 Stanford leading. There's the strike. And Steve Shitron, the top relief pitcher for Stanford, up and loosening down the left field line. Line to right field, and it falls in for a base hit. Finn moves on to third as Higgins singles, and the first 2 hitters here in the 8th are on base for Arizona State.
They're keeping a close eye on Spencer now. 17 starts that he had during the season, only 4 complete games, and we've seen here in the 8th. To the leadoff hitter in this inning, Finn, he fell behind 2 balls and no strikes with a fastball up, and the location has not been that great, and certainly wasn't with a curveball out over the plate there to Higgins. He gets the base hit, and for Mark Marquis, he's going to be watching Spencer very, very closely now and see if he's not tiring. But up to this point, truly amazing job this young man has done.
Rick, one of the keys has been the ability of Spencer to stop Steve Willis. Willis, the cleanup hitter for the Sun Devils, 0 for 3. And he has left 3 men in scoring position as the conference goes on. Out at the mound here in the 8th inning with Shitron continuing to warm up. Now, Shitron was used last night in that win over Cal State Fullerton, which advanced Stanford into this championship game. Both Stanford and Arizona State have had to come through the losing bracket. In fact, the Sun Devils lost their opener in the regional to Evansville 1-0. Then they came through Oklahoma, UNLV, swept Pepperdine. And at the World Series, after Wichita State beat them, they had to beat Florida and Wichita State twice to get into this title match. And for Stanford, it's been much the same way, the hard way.
We saw Spencer talking to himself just a little bit after pitching coach Dutton went back to the dugout. And here's where we have to be careful. If you go out and you ask a young man how he feels, the adrenaline level is so high, he'll tell you he feels extremely well. Attempted pick off the bluff.
Looking for the runner to stray too far from first as he wheels around, which is a legal play. It's interesting the Bach rule is written that you're not supposed to deceive a runner. I don't know what that particular play is, but some inconsistencies, I guess, in the rules from time to time. High pitch hit deep to left field. Way back. It's out of here. Steve Willis blasts a 3-run home run for Arizona State.
Swing for Arizona State all season long, and we've seen here that Spencer here in the 8th inning has not had real good location. Hung the breaking ball to Higgins, and Willis here with a tremendous home run, and that kind of signifies how frustrating it's been. You see Finn pleading with the ball to go out of the ballpark.
Dan Rumsey, the right fielder, stepping in with Stanford's lead reduced to a 5-run margin, 9-4, and the pitch is inside for a ball.
At the top of the show, we mentioned that Jim Brock had said this ball club of his here in '88 does have the ability to come back and score runs late in the ball game, and Stanford is a ball club that knows that maybe all too well here.
This one hit in the air over the second baseman's head for a single. Martin Peralta, the designated hitter, due up, and Marquis will have to think about making a change.
It's the pitch that he can handle, and that ball is on the inner part of the plate. Fights it off, but Rumsey just lays it in a perfect spot just over to second base, and they've seen just about enough.
So Steve Chitron will be coming in from the Stanford bullpen. Talked about his relief stopper.
Chitron gives me gray hairs, to be honest with you. And Chitron's the guy that if there's nobody on base, he'll walk to just to make me nervous. I think that's what he really tries to do. He tries to drive me crazy. But he is our ace out of the bullpen. And he's, I feel much more comfortable if there's 2 guys on base and I bring him in. Then he won't walk 1 or 2. He'll get them out.
Well, he has 1 man on base here with Peralta due up. And we'll see how Chitron's control here is this afternoon. He was pretty impressive last night, I thought.
But he has a man on base, and as Mark was saying, he drives him nuts when there's nobody on. But one of the top relievers in college baseball, leading the Pac-10 with 9 saves, 10 overall here in '88.
Now with the score 9-4 in the count, 1 ball and no strikes, will Brock make him throw a strike, Rick?
Well, without question, Arizona State also knows that Chitron has driven Stanford nuts at times. He's been extremely effective, but
line drive double play.
I was going to say you would like for him to throw strikes, but then again, when Chitron comes in with a man on base and you can get him to hit the ball hard at someone, well, it's good for one side of the field, and for the other, well, the frustration just continues to mount with time running out.
That a big play in this championship game. It was 9-4, runner on at first. Ball was extremely well hit. Had it been another foot right or left, it would have gone on into the outfield for a base hit. He did not go around. Batter is Tim Spear. He tripled for the Sun Devils earlier, and he has flied out each of his last 2 at-bats. Get an idea of how hard Chitron is throwing. Over 90 miles an hour, and hit deep to center field. DeGroat goes back and makes a beautiful catch, crashing into the wall and holds on. Nice play by the Cardinals center fielder. Here it is, Rick. Just a tremendous swing. That's only part of a great play. DeGraw out in center field. Well, one of the reasons that Stanford believes he's one of the best center fielders here in the College World Series. A gutsy play, goes back, battles the wall, and holds on to the baseball.
The response in Omaha, the enthusiasm is incredible. Dennis, yet I understand there's been conversations about possibly moving the event from Omaha.
Well, there has been some discussion about that, but I think the most visible element of support has been the number of people here this year and the enthusiasm of the fans and so forth. And that in itself indicates that Omaha is the home of the College World Series, and we look forward to continue our cooperative effort with them.
What is the position of the NCAA at this moment on keeping the series or moving it?
Well, I don't think our position is what we have to do to keep it here. I think what we need to do now is look at what we can continue to do to improve the situation here in an joint effort with the city of Omaha, and we're very positive and very pleased. It's a civic pride that Omaha has in this event, and the NCAA is proud to be involved with it.
Well, thank you and congratulations. Back to you, Brent.
All right, John, thank you. Eric DeGraw, the hitter, with a count of 1-1 strike. He's the junior from Anaheim who just made that superb catch in center field.
And he showed exactly why Stanford went ahead and maybe made that switch early in the ball game to get the defense into the game with that big center field and that wind blowing out, and certainly able to cash in on that strategy in the 8th inning.
Base hit for DeGraw. Bottom of the 8th inning with Stanford leading Arizona State 9-4. Now it's the top of the order, Frank Carey, and you cannot overstate how important that line drive that Carey picked off to start that double play in the top of the inning might have been. Arizona State making its biggest move of the game. And he was right there in the middle of another double play as Ingram throws on over to first base, and DeGraw is easily in. 9 runs on 12 hits for Stanford. That's the most they have made in any single game here in the College World Series. We talked about Arizona State coming here the hard way. Stanford lost its Northeast Regional opener to St. John's and then came back to beat Kentucky twice in a row. Then here at the World Series, they were beaten by Cal State Fullerton before rallying and knocking off the Titans last night in the semifinal.
Back to a situation now where they are holding the runner at first base. DeGraw can run, and Stanford has already seen the explosiveness that Arizona State has. They would like to be able to pick up another run right here.
Pitch out. And at the conclusion of this championship game, we'll send you for the 3rd round coverage of the West